I'm on site.
Next thing I want to talk about is a series. Well, not a series, a documentary I was watching. Let's see how I look there. The documentary is called Quiet on Set, the dark side of kids TV. Ding, ding, ding. So if you're like me and you grew up on things like Nickelodeon, Disney Channel, specifically Nickelodeon, because it's talking about Nickelodeon, then you know all of those great shows we used to watch. You know, Drake and Josh, iCarly, Victorious, all those type of things, all of that, and Amanda Bynes show. You know, like those type of shit. I grew up watching a lot of those shows. I really, really, really enjoy them. So this documentary dives into the producer of majority of those shows. His name is Dan Schneider, and apparently he is like Diddy on steroids. And he's just some weird ass nigga who was doing some really weird stuff on set. Mind you, like he was producing kids shows, so he was obviously around a whole bunch of kids the whole time. And just some inappropriate things he was doing, inappropriate touching, inappropriate sayings, inappropriate even to go as far as like to put these inappropriateness into the sketches, into the shows and all of that. And you know, when you're watching it as a kid, like everything just seems funny and everything just seems a joke, but like this documentary, the way it's presented is like, whoa, it makes you really want to think back to all those things you saw and how they reference so much adult stuff that, you know, kids should not be watching. So I'm just gonna play the trailer for you guys. You guys will check out the trailer and then you guys can watch it for yourselves. Yeah, so it's called Quiet on Set.
In the early 90s, Nickelodeon was kid everything. And you better hope that your house had cable.
Wasn't there to educate you. We were there to have fun, to get slimed, to be entertained.
And this is when Dan Schneider arrives, Nickelodeon's golden boy. He created these shows that were hugely successful for them.
No one had ever really done sketch comedy starring kids for kids.
He launched the careers of child actors who became major stars.
For 20 years, he shaped children's entertainment and culture.
Thank you for being here.
But that marked one of the darkest chapters. Working for Dan was like being in an abusive relationship.
Dan's treatment of people on his shows was an open secret.
So my lawyer filed complaints, gender discrimination, hostile work environment, harassment, and it was so devastating.
How safe can any kids be in that environment? There would be even bigger problems down the line with actual pedophiles on set.
Spoiler alert, if you actually end up watching this, I did watch it. It's like there's like 4 episodes. Yeah, it gets really deep, especially on episode 3. It gets really deep. They expose like a whole fucking pedophile that was on there, and the nigga got caught with a whole bunch of child pee. You know, it was just fucking weird shit, man. This is like really an expose into the whole Nickelodeon situation. Yeah.
These are 3 predators who worked at Nickelodeon, all in a short amount of time.
There they are. So this guy here, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but this guy is, what is his name? His name is Andy Handy, some shit like that. He was like that cool guy. He was a personal assistant of the production whole thing, and he was in charge of like showing the kids the set and taking them around the production and all of that. And yeah, you know, he started befriending some of the kids, and then he just went on to be a weirdo. And then this guy, this was Brian Peck, I think. Yeah, his name is Brian Peck. He was probably the weirdest of all of the weirdest. He actually got charged and all of that. And episode 3 is a big reveal of like who he molested and did all sorts of crazy weird ass shit too. And then I don't remember seeing this guy. I don't remember seeing this third guy, but yeah.
Hey guys, we're ready for you.
It was a toxic environment. It made me trust people less.
We were there for so many hours. You get comfortable with people until you're not. I had no idea what I was saving my son from. It's a house of horrors.
They find this enormous trove of child pornography.
The officer said we found Ziploc bags, each one with a girl's name on it.
11 charges of child sexual abuse related to a child actor.
It made me wonder who was being hurt.
I've been waiting 17 years for today.
It wasn't dealing with anybody on the shows or anything, right?
It was a child actor.
On one of our shows.
On one of
Yes.
your shows.
Have you
Nigga shook like, I don't want to, what? Yes, nigga, on your shows, weirdo.
ever told your story publicly on the floor?
Yep, okay. So that's pretty much the trailer. I know this thing says 2 hours, but trust me, it's clickbait. They just put the trailer and then made a whole bunch of stills for like 2 hours. Fucking ridiculous. But yeah, that's the Quiet on Set documentary. It's really freaking eerie. And if you don't want your childhood, you know, movies and series and Nickelodeon ruined, don't watch it because it's so deep. But then, I mean, I think when you watch it, you'll see a little bit of, I won't say some bias, but it's just like it's presented, you know, a little bit too much to the right and trying to, you know, coerce you into having some sort of perspective or narrative, you know, because I think there were some people who said that not everything he was doing was bad, and you know, he wasn't entirely bad the entire time, and himself actually wasn't charged with any child, you know, molestation or child R-word type vibes. He was just weirdo. And what's even weirder is that he actually, after they watched the documentary, because this came out like a week ago, he actually did an interview. So let's go Brian Peck interview. He actually did an interview with, no, not Brian Peck, Dan Schneider interview. He actually did an interview where he's talking to,
hey, it's Boogie.
I don't know if you guys know this guy. This guy's from iCarly. He used to do some funny things in iCarly. If you watch iCarly, Tebow, there his name, Tebow on iCarly. Yeah,
I played Tebow on Nickelodeon's iCarly. I got a chance to watch the Quiet on Set program, and I reached out to Dan to see if it was something that he'd be willing to discuss. I'm pleased to say that he said yes. Dan, how are you?
I'm okay. I really appreciate you reaching out and giving me the opportunity to talk to you about what we saw over the last 2 nights.
I'm really glad you're here because I believe this is important.
For sure.
We've got a lot of things to unpack. But before I dive,
a lot of things in 19 minutes. So that's how you know this nigga's not really serious. I'm gonna fast forward
a year. I would let that pressure get to me, which a good boss should never ever do.
Was there specific things that you were doing?
Sure. I would snap at people sometimes. I would be snarky when I could have given them a nicer answer. I would not give people the time that they needed. I would be in too big a hurry to get on to the next thing I had to do. And watching that show, it made me, there were so many times I wanted to pick up a phone and call some of those people and say, I'm so sorry, and let's talk about it. And I wish you'd had a better time, and I wish I could have shown you a better experience.
Yeah. Now, you've written hundreds of episodes. Thousands of jokes have been told.
Yeah.
But currently where we are, some people think that some of those jokes are inappropriate for children.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, there's references to like jokes where, like, you know, slime and stuff is like squirts on people's faces, and you know, it just references things that should not be referenced. But it's also like, for me, it's like the dichotomy of like, you're looking at a kid's show from an adult's perspective, whereas a kid would look at a kid's show from a kid's perspective. So it's kind of like, you think it's this, but then it's not meant to be like that. You know what I mean? Like, because if the kid doesn't see that, then, you know, it's like kind of like, where does the harm actually come from? You know, because you're saying, oh, this shit looks weird and this shit not be kids, but kids are like, oh, this is so funny, this is so, like, it's just a prank or whatever it is, you know. So it's kind of like, it's weird lines in between. So I don't know.
All these jokes that you're speaking of, that the show covered over the past 2 nights, every one of those jokes was written for a kid audience.
Yeah.
Because kids thought they were funny, and only funny.
Yeah, see, that's exactly what I'm saying. You know what I mean? So, because you're an adult, as an adult, you have more experience, and you have seen more things, and da. So you're able to get more context from things where they might not actually be that deep of a context. You know, it might just be like, if someone is like squirting slime glue on someone's face, you know, like you might think, oh, ha, that's like a cum shot type vibes. But then the kid is not even going to know what a cum shot is. So it's not, his mind is, or her mind is not going to go that far to think of that. So it's kind of like, you know, we're looking at kids shows with adult minds. So it's like, I think the best way to do it, they should ask the kids, you know, make the kids watch it and then ask the kids like, does this suggest anything? Does this look any type of way? Does this remind you of anything that's inappropriate? I think that would be the best way to determine whether, you know, because if you ask an adult's gonna, because an adult knows all these other things that kids don't know, they're obviously gonna say like, yeah, that's some weird shit, you know?
Okay. Now we have some adults looking back at them 20 years later through their lens, and they're looking at them and they're saying, oh, you know, I don't think that's appropriate for a kid show. Mm-hmm. And I have no problem with that. If that's how anyone feels, let's cut those jokes out of the show. Just like I would have done 20 years ago or 25 years ago. I cut it. I want my shows to be popular. I want everyone to like. The more people who like the shows, the happier I am. Yeah. So if there's anything in a show that needs to be cut because it's upsetting somebody, let's cut it.
So I think it's big for you to say with your work, mm-hmm. if it's viewed as that today, you don't have a problem.
Cut it. Cut it.
I mean, that's a solution.
Cut it. But yeah, that's the whole situation, the whole Quiet on Set documentary. But watch it though. It's pretty interesting. It dives into the whole, I mean,